Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby, where we hope to be informative and entertaining and help you keep your modeling mojo alive. Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of Plastic Model Mojo. We'd like to thank you for taking time to check us out and hope this will be the first of many more podcasts to come. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Baskett, and I'm coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, which is the land of horses and bourbon and plastic modeling, apparently. We're going to be bringing you a straight-up Kentucky Fried podcast as my co-host joins us remotely from about 70 miles to my immediate west in Louisville, Kentucky. He is the current editor of Tactical Notes, which is the official newsletter of the Military Modelers Club of Louisville. And he's the Secretary of Recruitment and Retention for the IPMS USA National Organization. And best of all, he's a 172nd scale aircraft aficionado. I'd like to welcome my co-host, David Knights. How you doing tonight, Dave?
Not bad. How about yourself?
Well, I can't complain. Getting some modeling done.
Well, that's good news. That's good news. I wish I could say the same. It's been a couple of days since I hit the bench hard, but, you know, it comes in spurts, I guess.
You need to take more days off work.
Yes, I do. You are correct. I'm not sure.
All right. Well, let's get into this.
All right. So what's your modeling fluid tonight?
My modeling fluid tonight is standard orange label Bullet Kentucky straight bourbon. About 90 proof, right out of your hometown there, Louisville, Kentucky.
It's a good choice. Good choice. Both Mike and I are Kentucky boys, and so bourbon does seem to be one of our favorites.
It's my go-to.
Yeah.
I just told another friend of mine I send a bottle for. It was a barter. He sent me something. I sent him something back. So it's one of my favorites, and it's a good go-to for my what I tell him. I told him it was my favorite affordable bourbon.
Yeah. Well, and you drink it straight or over ice, or do you mix it?
Over ice. I'm not a neat guy. I don't like warm drinks at all, even in the dead of winter, even bourbon.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you're gonna drink it straight or over ice, then going with the top quality bourbon is the way to go. Tonight, I'm doing something a little different. If you're using bourbon as a mixer and it's not the feature of the drink like a Manhattan or an old fashioned where you're really going to taste the bourbon, it's okay to step down to a slightly lesser bourbon. Like right now, I'm drinking a Boilermaker, a Blue Moon. Classic Blue Moon with one shot of Evan Williams 100 proof white label. Now that's not a top quality bourbon, and it's not something that you choose to sip on your own over ice or neat, but used in the Boilermaker, because you don't really taste the bourbon. All it does is enhance the flavor of the beer. It's an excellent way to go. And also it allows me to model a little bit longer before the bourbon hits.
Before the bourbon hits in. Yeah, I'll have to give that a shot. I might pick a different beer, but I didn't think you liked hoppy beers.
No, Blue Moon White isn't hoppy. I tend to like wheat beers. Blue Moon is a classic Belgian white, and so it's perfect for me. Yeah, I don't like the stuff that they get out in Seattle and the Pacific Northwest, where they're trying to see how hoppy they can make the beer. That's not for me.
Well, maybe next episode I'll have one for you, a wheat beer.
Okay, that sounds cool. So what are you working on? What's on your bench right now?
On my bench is the PT-76 from Trumpeter that started as a paint mule about 10 years ago, as you well know. That's the top dog. I'm about I'm about to the point to start putting all the bits together. I've been weathering the hull behind the suspension today. I showed you earlier,
Yeah,
and we can share that later
sure.
once this actually gets posted somewhere. And just playing around with a lot of new products, trying to keep from having a disaster recovery on it, though. I'll tell you that.
Oh wow, what challenges have you run into?
Mig Jimenez's new line, this ammo by Mig, has got these medium density enamels. They're textured. They have varying degrees of texture.
Like
They've
is
got
mud
grit.
or earth or stuff
Yes,
like that? Yeah.
exactly. And there's one called Dry Earth, which is really, really light. And these things have a whole lot of pigment in them. And I was using it, doing some splatters with it, and I got some on one of the upper surfaces. And trying to get that back off is just, I finally got it, but it was near panic there for a while.
It,
I had to kind of set it down and walk away.
and I'll be honest with you, I think that that's what a lot of guys um, shy away from modeling because or weathering because of is you're building a model and everything's going right and it's looking really good, and there's this fear that okay, now I'm going to start applying weathering, which a lot of guys aren't confident with to begin with, me included, and you're afraid that you're gonna do something that's irretrievable. And most stuff isn't really irretrievable when you think about it.
No, unless you apply a wash over like Humbrol
Yeah,
matte
well,
finish or something like that. That's
yeah.
kind of unrecoverable.
Yes, there are exceptions to every rule, and that is one of them. But you live that. I like your idea of using paint mules to experiment with different techniques.
So this started out. I started out of the box, and then the tracks for this kit are terrible. So then I went to Trumpeter Kits an individual track link set for this, which is not any fun either, and they're very fragile, and that wasn't going to work out either. So I end up with Frill tracks. So in the process of trying to decide which tracks I was going to use, I just let the construction continue, and I never sized the track links, how many I needed per side, until I got to this near finished state. So now I've got to get a lot of stuff done before I can actually fit a run of tracks and get this finished out. But it's just about to the point where everything's painted except the tracks, and as soon as I get this weathering done and get the wheels on it, it should pick up pace a little bit. So
So
that is my
normally
go
what you
ahead.
would have done is that you would have sized the track to figure out how many links you need before you ever got into the painting stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have figured
Okay,
it all out and had it all ready to go to paint in one shot.
gotcha.
Wouldn't be in this mode of painting some things and still building some stuff. It's not the way I've ever done it.
Well, not being an armor guy, I don't know how what the order is in that regard. So,
Well, that's my top dog. What's your number one project right
well,
now?
my number one project right now, funny enough, well, actually, I got several going, but my number one right now is, as you know, I went to the IPMS USA Nationals down in Chattanooga. It was my 24th Nationals, and it was by far the best I've ever been to. It was they set a new standard. This
Yeah, I
thing,
kind of regretted not going after all the news started coming out of that.
it was unbelievable. It was just so much fun. Well, while I was down there, I picked up the A model little company out of the Ukraine. Makes, among other things, a series of Russian air to surface missiles. And I picked up the first Russian air to surface missile, which is called an AS-1. And Terry Hill and Rich Giddig and I sat in Terry's hotel room um, Saturday, it was Friday night or Saturday night of the convention, and we sat there watching. I think it was preseason football at the time on the television, and we were all working on kits in the hotel room. And so I had just bought this thing, and so I started working on it, and then when I come home from a national, I'm always on a high from a post convention high where I've really got the juices flowing. So in less than a month for me, I got it all painted and or assembled and painted and or primed and painted, and now I'm at the point where it's I've got to go back in and fix a few things, just the final prep stuff before I really finish it off. And I've kind of been stuck there for a couple of weeks because it's been going so well. It looks really good. I'm very happy with it. It's a fun little kit. Now it's from the Ukraine. It's not perfect, but it's a fun little kit. And I'm doing it in bare metal, which is another level of difficulty. Um, I'm using the Alcalad product, which I really like, but it's been enjoyable as heck. I just need to finish it off, but so hopefully soon.
And what made you pick that one?
You know what? Is we were sitting in the hotel room, and it was I had most of the stuff I had bought at the convention was detail parts and decals. I'm a decal holic. I got about 500 sheets. We don't even want to delve into that dark tunnel. And I didn't really buy many kits, but I did buy this one, and because of what it was very simple. They're not a ton of parts, so that I could sit there and start working on it in the hotel room, and it made sense. So that's what I did.
All right.
So what are you looking over the stuff that's coming out? What are you thinking?
Well, for like, let's go back to October.
Okay.
Probably for October, it's probably Ming's or Mung. Mung, I think, is actually how you say it.
Really?
Yes, yeah, I think that's correct.
I didn't know that.
Well, feng shui, right?
Yeah,
Feng, right?
I guess.
They're M4A3 E2 Jumbo to Sherman, believe it or not. Actually, kind of has my eye.
Really? What?
Well, it's
particular reason?
I'm not a Sherman guy, but there are probably a couple of versions, a couple of varieties of Sherman that do have my interest, and one is the Jumbo, just because they tried to fix some of the shortcomings for a specific job. I believe these vehicles were created for the Siegfried line.
Mm-hmm.
In concept. I think they were probably used before that. I think they were used in the Battle of the Bulge a little bit. But Tamiya did one a while back, and if you go back even further, there was a really, really early issue of, early for me, mid 80s, early 80s probably, of Fine Scale Modeler, where somebody built one.
I remember that. I actually have that.
The old school FSM, their article was pretty exhaustive, pretty detailed as far as technique and all that, and it was interesting. I learned a lot about modeling from that article, even though I never built a Jumbo Sherman.
Yeah.
But then Tamiya did one. It was kind of half baked, and then I think there's a it was Tasca, now it's Asuka models. They've got one. So now there's this one. So it ought to be pretty fleshed out by now. Hopefully there's been enough research done that everybody knows what a Jumbo is supposed to look like. And Mike would not have to learn about the nuances of a Sherman tank to go build this kit. I don't know if I'll get this one or not, but of the releases in October, I think this is the one that's like, that got my juices flowing a little bit. Maybe I would do it. Maybe I'd buy this one. Maybe I would actually go the extra step and pick this one up and finally have a go at one, because you know me, I favor a lot of Soviet armor, and T-34s are the same way. But gosh, there's so many. Shermans are such a nuanced thing, right?
Yeah.
There's so many, even within a production specific, designation, M4, A3, whatever. There's a bunch of smaller details within that you can or cannot worry about, I guess, depending on your preference.
Sure.
But that for October, I think that's the one. That's the one for me. What's
Well,
your favorite?
I'm going to reach back in the Wayback Machine, because this was actually announced last December and was a surprise to pretty much all of the modeling community. And that is Airfix. Every December, they do like an advent calendar where they announce and give you hints about what their next year's releases are going to be. And they announced at the end of last year that they were doing a MiG-17 in 72nd scale. And that is one of my aircraft. That's, if you put me on a deserted island and told me that I build one type of aircraft the rest of my modeling life, MiG-17 would be in the top 2 or 3 of that. And so it was a surprise, because, everybody's thinking Airfix is going to concentrate on British subjects. They've done a lot of British subjects. This thing kind of came out of left field, and I was disappointed when it turned out it wasn't going to come out till later in 2019, and then it gets pushed back a little farther, so it doesn't come out till the end of 2019. But all the sprue shots and all the CAD renderings and everything, it looks really, really nice. And I could see myself building a whole lot of these things one after the other.
Well,
Go ahead.
What kit are they offsetting in this release? I mean, why are they doing a MiG-17?
Well, they had done a MiG-15, which actually was not particularly good. It was everybody viewed it as being chunky. And then Edward came with a really nice MiG-15 right after that. So it's really surprising that they came out with the MiG-17. The kit they're replacing is the Dragon kit, the old DML Dragon MiG-17, which was a nice model. Not perfect, but I built one. It builds up nicely. It's not a bad kit. There are a couple of things you have to correct along the way, but none of them overwhelming. So it's not that it was a hole that needed to be filled from the standpoint of we've got no kit. It's just the fact, I'll tell you, be honest with you, of the last 5 or 6 aircraft kits I've finished, I'll bet you at least 3 of them have been Airfix kits, because since Airfix got back in the game, releasing new models, they stepped up their quality. They weren't just repopping old molds. They were into the new technology. Their kits, for price for the money, have been fantastic, fun builds. I did their P-51, I did their Hurricane, I did their Spitfire 19, and all of them have been just real fun to build. And, that's one of the things that's easy to miss in this hobby, is having fun. So I'm really looking forward to the MiG-17. So what's your big yawn for the month, or for the recent?
My biggest yawn of the month for October, reaching back to October, it'd be from Hobby Boss, and it's a Swedish subject. And not that I have anything against Sweden or even modern subjects for that matter, but
or the Swedish bikini team.
Swedish bikini team, yeah, got nothing against that. It would be the Swedish Luftwarnkanonenwagen 90. I don't know how to say 90 in Swedish, but it looks German, but it's not German. It's probably pronounced very similar, which is what I just did, hopefully. It's a modern Swedish anti-aircraft armored vehicle. And I'm sure it's a decent kit. I'm sure there are folks out there in the modern sphere of interest who are just rolling on the ground, loving this.
Yeah.
My problem is that Hobby Boss has left some holes in their product line that that I personally would like to see filled, which we may talk about later in our special segment.
Sure.
But I'm like, why? The whole trumpeter Hobby Boss deal just is perplexing. I wish one of them would focus on modern subjects and one of them would not. I think that would help a lot. It'd help me. I don't know if it'd help Hobby Boss and Trumpeter at all, but it would help me. But that's probably the one that's like, come on, guys. And for me, it's an armor subject. Maybe in the future segment, future biggest favorite and biggest yawn. Maybe it might not be a tank, but this time it is.
Sure.
It is Hobby Boss's Luftwarnkanonenwagen 90.
Well, for me, reaching back, it's actually August. Edward really, now, I'm a 72nd scale guy. 72nd is my scale. It's God's one true scale. I jokingly rag on 48 scale, and I promise you that's not what I'm doing here. But Edward released a 48 scale P51D, and this is not an item that we needed. I mean,
to me too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm right. To me, as P51D is not making any money for Edward. I understand that, but there are fine kits of the P51D and 48 scale on the market. There wasn't a hole there to fill, other than the fact that Edward didn't have one in their lineup. And so I guess that explains it. And I understand from a business standpoint why they're doing what they're doing. But it's a complete and total yawn. It's another P51, which, it's like an ME109 or a Focke-Wulf 190. They're dime a dozen. And we already have a really good one in Tamiya. So it's a yawn for me.
I can understand that.
So what are you spending your money on, model-wise? Not you have two teenage boys. I know what you're spending your money on, but model-wise.
Extracurricular activities and food.
Yes.
Probably not in that order, but it's probably close.
Yeah. So what are you spending your model money on?
Well, I've been pretty good the last month. I bought a few things, a few consumables. Always needing to me a lacquer thinner. I bought some of that. Big deal, right?
Yeah. Now,
I picked up. Go ahead.
Do you prefer the Tamiya lacquer thinner over the Unicorn Tears, the Mr. Color? What do they call that stupid stuff? Mr. Color
Sounds
Leveling.
Like you're reaching for it.
I was. Mr. Color Leveling Thinner 400.
Well, that's a good question because I've never tried it. So maybe I need to.
You have never used Unicorn Tears? No. I am telling you what, as far as even lacquer thinners go, it has amazing properties. I don't know what it is other than Unicorn Tears, but it really, you can thin your Tamiya or your AK paints with it. It does everything any other lacquer thinner does, but more so. And it used to be hard to get, but now with the advent of Amazon, You could order it off Amazon, or in fact, Brian at Scale Reproductions in Louisville has it on the shelf. So it's not as rare as it once was. I highly
Not as rare
recommend
as
it.
it was. Well, I'll have to give that a shot.
Yeah.
But that's not
Now,
where my outlay of cash stopped for the last month.
and so where did that go?
I did pick up Tamiya's clear flat and Tamiya's clear semi gloss. I had not tried those. At this point, as of today, I've actually tried the semi gloss, and I was happy with that. Before you had to mix their flat base with whatever their
Right.
clear and do it yourself, but not anymore. Yeah, I like the semi gloss. When I finish the earth effects on the lower hull of this PT-76, I'll be giving their flat a try. And I don't anticipate any problems. Just because it's a Tamiya product.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine. So other than the consumables, in the month, I actually bought a Tsukuda Hobby 86 A1H Skyraider from in your chosen scale there, 1/72 scale.
Good job. I knew you would.
You knew I'd come around.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the top dog kit, maybe. I don't know.
It's not a bad kit. It's
got recessed panel lines. It's got some issues which I've read about, but I'm not looking to do this as a showstopper. This is Mike starting to do some 72nd scale aircraft is what this is. And this is one that I've always been interested in. And I'm probably going to do either a US, obviously,
mm-hmm.
or a South Vietnamese aircraft out of Da Nang.
Yeah.
There's markings in the kit for the latter,
yeah.
But the decal sheet with this particular kit was kind of shot because it's got some years on it at this point.
I have 500 sheets.
I'm sure you do. With 500 sets, I'm sure you got exactly what I need.
I guarantee you I do. You can do that. You can do it as U.S. Navy. You can do it as Air Force. You can do it as South Vietnamese Air Force. And believe it or not, the country of Chad in Africa flew them. And
I'm sure somebody's still flying them other than airshow pilots.
I don't know if anybody is currently still has them in inventory, but Lord knows.
Unless they can't afford the oil.
Yeah. They certainly are great weathering subjects because they did spray just tons of oil, and you can go to town if you choose to. So.
Well, this will be a Vietnam era aircraft because I like the was it Tactical Air Command scheme? Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
tell me
the Southeast Asia scheme, the 3-tone green,
the 3-tone, like 2 greens and a brown.
2 greens and a brown over 36,622, which is that yellow gray.
Well, we'll have to sort that out eventually, but
we can do that.
You got my back.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're here. That's what modelers are here for. So,
what broke your wallet?
Well, I wish I could say it was a little model kit or some consumables, but what broke my wallet was post nationals. I bought a Harder and Steenbeck airbrush, and I needed another airbrush. Like I needed a hole in the head because I had
much less a big hole.
Yeah, exactly. It is the most expensive airbrush I've ever bought. But I will tell you, it's really, really nice. If you're going to do very fine spraying, the tolerance, it's, classic Germans. They over-engineer everything, but it's super well engineered. Comes with 2 different tips, comes with 2 different needles. You've got a 0.15 needle for fine spraying, and then you've got a .40 for larger spraying. You've got two separate interchangeable size gravity cups. Um, it feels good in the hand. You can feel just how well everything is engineered. Um, and frankly, having seen John Miller at Model Paint Solutions, he's a dealer for Harder and Steenbeck out in Seattle. Having seen him use the brush uh, on several occasions, I became convinced that yeah, it will actually make a little bit of a difference. So that was a chunk of money. That was a
I bet. I
yeah.
expect great things from you,
I
Dave.
just, so do I. So do I.
And not just T-shirts and license plates.
That's right. Yeah. Hockey helmets.
Buy anything else? Just the airbrush?
Let's see what else. My other purchase of any consequence was. Do you know what a thinner line circle cutter is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, those I've seen them for about a year online, different videos, different modelers recommending them, using them. I finally broke down and bought one. It is really great for cutting circles in kabuki tape. You can actually use it to cut thin plastic if you're trying to make discs for some scratch building product. Um, I know MIG now has an imitation one out as well. Is it MIG or AK? Whatever, one of them.
There's 2 or 3 now at this point.
And I definitely recommend them if you're doing, particularly for say somebody in your situation, if you're doing road wheels or car tires, truck tires, where you need to mask the hub. Uh, it's an easy way to sit there and cut off 6 or 8 wheel hub masks really quickly, as opposed to having to locate a pre-made, pre-cut kabuki tape masking product.
Might have to check that out too. I like tools, so
I do too.
Well, all right. If that's all you bought, then you're doing pretty good.
Yep.
I guess we can roll on into our special segment for this episode, and we have selected what kit do we need. And I guess we'll go back and forth here because you should have a list if you've prepared.
I've prepared and I've got a list.
And this is what kits Mike and Dave thinks we need. So everybody needs to keep that in mind.
What's our email address so that people who listen to this can email us what they think we need?
Our email address is, I gotta get it right.
Yeah.
Is plasticmodelmojo@gmail.com.
Perfect. And after you listen to this,
if somebody's got, we can, they can send us some suggestions. And next time we do this, maybe we'll have some other suggestions, because I'm sure yours are going to be tailored toward your personal interests, and likewise mine probably are.
Indeed.
Maybe next time we can try to circumvent that a little bit and think a little more
outside the box.
A little outside the box, a little more globally, and be a little more inclusive. But since I kicked off the segment, you get to go first. What kit do we need, Dave?
Well, one that we've needed for quite a while that apparently is going to get filled next year. Zvezda, the company again out of Ukraine, is going to produce in 72nd scale a C-130. We've had the Italeri kit, and before that the Airfix kit in 72nd scale, and both are fine, but both are raised panel lines. Both are 30, 40 years old at this point. We don't have a modern C-130, one of the later J models or anything after that. We're not 100% sure what Zvezda is going to produce, but in their catalog image, they show a late model 130. And if that's the case, that will be very popular because there's a lot of U.S. Air National Guard units that use the new model, including Kentucky's, that use the late model C-130s. Um, so that's what we needed, and it looks like now, these companies announce vaporware, and it takes 3 or 4 years to get something that you're promised year after year. But assuming they follow through, looks like in 2020 we'll get a C-130, a modern C-130. So how about you?
In 70 second, the
70
70-second
seconds.
scale.
Yep.
Okay, just
I
checking.
know.
Oh, at the top of my list is another T-34-76 STZ factory model from 1942. This would be the probably, I don't see how it could not be the most desirable single hatch 1942 and earlier T-34 variant there is. And Dragon did one of these under the Cyber Hobby label.
I was going to say, didn't
several
we
years
have
back.
one of those?
We have one. They did a 41, which was really good. And then they did a 42 and they crapped the bed.
How did they crap the bed?
It was like they took a project to Hong Kong Technical University and said to their graphic design and mechanical engineering graduating class, or seniors or juniors or sophomores, I don't know, and said, we need a new upper hull for this kit. Go at it. And none of them were modelers. I don't know that that's not what happened, but it's
sure.
You end up with a part that was not on par with the rest of the kit, and it really didn't fit. There were some real fit issues with the rear hull, and it for to be the most desirable, in my opinion, version of the single hatch T-34. It should have been bangers. It should have been the best one they did, and it was the worst one they did. And they didn't care because they never fixed it. They came out with another one in German markings with a Panzer III-4 rear stowage bin on the back of the turret and a cupola on the roof, and it's still the same kit. But they never fixed it. So really, somebody needs to step up. I wouldn't care if it was them, to be honest, but who else is doing T-34s now? I know Academy's doing T-34s and Zvezda's doing T-34s. Somebody
Everybody's
needs to do
doing
this
Panthers.
Kit. Well, I know. Yeah.
Literally everyone.
In fact, our friends down in Florida at TMD did a resin kit after the Dragon one came out for a very short period of time. That was really nice, but
it was amazing.
Now to find that one's really expensive. So somebody needs to kit this in plastic again and really make an honest attempt to do it right.
Yeah.
So that's my number one I would like to see.
All right. I'm going to step into your realm here. Hopefully I'm not breaking any rules here, but I'm actually going to jump into 35th scale and suggest, and we're just starting to see this now, 35th scale civilian vehicles, particularly 35th scale civilian vehicles of the World War II era. This has made sense for years. And only now, I think Mini Art's doing one.
Yeah, they've got a few, yeah.
Right. Tamiya did one or two of the ones where they were civilian vehicles, but they got it impressed into military services as staff cars.
I think ICM has done a few of those as well.
But we are now just starting to see more 35th scale civilian vehicles. And this just makes perfect sense to me, simply because it opens up diorama possibilities like nobody's business. go back and look at period photographs. You'll see lots of civilian vehicles in use. If you're doing anything that's not immediately combat related, there are civilian vehicles all over the place and a wide variety of them. Everything from the Model T to Mercedes to Renaults to a lot of trucks. Um, I'm just, I, it's, I, I think that this area ought to expand exponentially. We don't need another Panther, but a 35th scale Model T or a 35th scale Model A truck would be fantastic.
Well, we'll see what happens.
So, what's your next?
My next are Polish subjects in 35th scale armor again. A 7 TP single turret and a 7 TP twin turret tanks.
Yeah.
A lot of the Soviet T-26s have been kitted now. Even the Vickers 6 tons, which all these tanks are based on, which served with some tiny armies in some godforsaken four corners of World War II, right? Or
Yeah.
before, have been kitted. But the Polish 7 TP, the only kit out there is that Spunia kit from 1985. That's, it's terrible.
Yeah.
There's not one. And, IBG has just released some of the small Polish tankettes that had previously been done by one of the RPM or Maquette, one of the Eastern European countries, and now there's some really good kits of those out, and
Yeah.
the running gear and stuff has been kitted for this. It's been tooled. It was not too big of a stretch to really do these. I'm not real sure why, given some of the other subjects that have been kitted, why these have not.
Well, what's funny is that we've had the same problem in 72nd scale aircraft. For years, there was no good PZL, P7, P11, PZL, P23, 37, none of the Polish aircraft. And then just in the last year or two, we have gotten a run of several different companies, Arma, IBG, producing really quality kits of these subjects. And I kind of wonder if maybe you're going to see the same thing for 35th scale armor. I think that with the anniversary of the start of World War II, 1939, that it's going to produce more interest and therefore more kits, and also we seem to be getting Polish producers now, and they clearly are going to be interested in producing Polish subjects. Of which, Roger Morehouse has a new book out called First to Fight on the Polish campaign in World War II. Highly recommend it.
So what's your number two?
My number two is, and this one's a little weird,
That's okay.
72nd scale SS6. The SS6 is the sapwood. It's the Russian ICBM that basically in civilian version the Russians used to launch Sputnik and then used to launch Yuri Gagarin into space, and frankly is the basis of every Soviet space vehicle up to and including today. There are a couple of old Eastern European kits of this subject, but amazingly enough, you can build a fair number of the Soviet ICBMs in 72nd scale, but we don't have a good modern kit of the SS6. So, personally, for me, I would love to see somebody come out and do a new kit of the SS6. How about you?
Well, I think with the well, I don't know if I would like to see it or not, Dave. No, I was going to say that there's been a lot of chatter on some of the other podcasts about, I guess it's the anniversary of the moon landing, and there's been a lot of talk about space kits, real space kits in
Yeah.
general, and um, yeah, it seems like if that launched early Soviet space program material, then it would be a desirable
Yeah,
subject.
I agree. For both the SS6, the ICBM, and you could use the same basic kit to do um, all of the Soviet spacecraft. So, what's your next one that you want to see?
Well, it gets back to my chagrin about the some of the latest Hobby Boss releases. Um, like the STZ model T34, the 42 model in particular, of the T26 series of light tanks, the Model 40 with the conical turret and the sloped upper hull is a fairly desirable variant of that vehicle. And Hobby Boss kitted, I don't recall all the designations offhand, but they have kitted from the twin turret up to the conical turret, but the conical turret with still the slab sided hull, and they stopped. So they didn't complete, they didn't finish the job, they didn't cross the goal line.
Oh,
So they need to finish it. They need to go back and finish what they started. They got a twin turret. They have they have the single turret, a couple of versions. They've got the conical turret still with the slab sided hull, as I just said, but they never built the last one, the Model 40, which had the sloped upper hull plates. So
have you seen the Finnish movie The Winter War?
yes, I have.
I was going to say I just finished watching that a few weeks ago, and there are three T-26s in it. I mean, actual.
They're probably real ones.
Yes, I was going to say they appear to be real T-26s. They do not appear to be mock ups or anything like that. They are definitely not CGI. Um, it's pretty cool. It's worth watching the movie just for the combat scenes. Um, there is a lot of Russian armor out there that because they had so many specific variants, there's a lot of Russian armor out there still to build. And yet we got another Panther and another Panther and another Tiger. And sometimes that's a little irritating.
There's certainly more than I care to build.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like those subjects, but I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. Well, and there were,
So what's next on your list?
well, I'm going to go a little bit weird here. Do you know what the USS Ward is?
The USS Ward,
Yes.
WARD?
WARD.
No, I do not.
It is a U.S. four-stack destroyer, basically one of those destroyers that was built during World War One
Oh,
that
okay.
was still in service at the beginning of World War II, and it fired the first shots of World War II for the U.S. It was the destroyer that was on patrol outside of Pearl Harbor and encountered and sank the one of the Japanese midget submarines that were involved in the Pearl Harbor attack. We've got the Ward in 350th scale, and we've got it in 700 scale, but it's tiny. You could do it in 72nd scale. It's only a little over 4.5 feet long. We have a Japanese midget sub in 72nd scale from fine molds, and the USS Ward would be fantastic as an accompanying piece. And again, it's no bigger. The Ravel's doing the German
Oh, yeah.
U-boats, and uh, the airfare or Matchbox did the old Canadian Matchbox Corvette. the Castleberry or whatever the name was. Um, and so it wouldn't be better. You could I think commercially kit the USS Ward, and it would be a great tie-in. We've got 1941 coming up, the anniversary of 1941, and some company out there could kit the Ward, and I think they'd have a nice tie-in with the anniversary of Pearl Harbor.
And, I can't remember it. You know me. I've not been to a lot of shows in the last few years, but the shows I've been to, and then the ones when I was fairly active several years back, it seemed like it was right when those 72nd scale submarines had
Yep.
hit the market, and there was at least one or two at every show. I mean, people were building them.
Yep.
So maybe you're right.
Yep. And they are
4
still.
feet. That's not terrible.
Yeah. You still see those today. So what's one more for you? What one more kit?
One more for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna beat Hobby Boss with a rubber hose tonight.
A Chinese assassin team is on its way to Lexington as we speak.
That's right. We need a BT5. Tamiya has done the BT7s in 2 versions.
Right.
Well, really 3, if you count the Finnish artillery one they did. And Hobby Boss did 2 versions of the BT2, which is the predecessor
right.
for the series. With the late version of BT2, they have a high percentage of what they need to just take it to the next step, because they already have the turret with their T-26 kits.
Right.
So they just need to finish the job. A BT5, because the BT5 was using pretty significant numbers compared to the BT2.
Well, I was going to ask, what was the BT5 used at Kalkengol, or was it used in Finland, early World War II?
Yes, to both of those, to all of those. Yes. Okay. The 2s were as well, but they're probably getting pulled out of training service and pressed into front lines. I mean, the BT2, at least the initial version, was a machine gun tank. So that was a lot of vehicle to only be armed with 2 machine guns. The later version, I believe, had a 45 millimeter gun on it. But the 5 did for sure. And it was ostensibly, a BT7, except the BT7, they went to like a cast front instead of, they started getting rid of some of the riveted construction, because that was a weakness.
Yeah.
Ultimately. But, it was the kind of the last riveted version of that series, fully riveted. But it was, there's the old Italeri kit, which is, it's not very good. And there's a resin conversion kit by a company called Rhino Models that I've seen built, and it's pretty good. It's to convert the Tamiya kit, but it's worthy of a plastic model.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of Russian stuff out there to be kitted. There's no question.
Oh, certainly. You got one more?
I got one more for you. We've got in 72nd scale, and yes, I love 72nd scale, so I'm going to pimp it as much as I can. We've got a really good F4 from Hasegawa. Even though it's a little long in the tooth, there's some aftermarket for it. You can really build a real nice F4. But a number of the early World War II Wildcats were F4, F3s. It's a different wing, noticeably different. And there's some conversions for the Hasegawa kit, but it would be nice to have an F4, F3 kitted by a major manufacturer. Tamiya could do it. Hasegawa could do it. We've had some companies, I believe AZ actually did one. And I think it might have been under their Admiral label. But again, it would be nice to have a modern major manufacturer kit of the F4, F3. So that's on my list. I would love to see that.
So, as far as time frame of active service, what's the sweet spot for that version?
From 1940, so pre-war, you can do it. In fact, the first versions of the F4, F3 were in yellow wings. You know, the
Yes.
pre-war silver and yellow markings, beautiful, really attractive, up through about 1940 to early 1942, Coral Sea. Um, I don't know if any of the Midway aircraft were F4, F3s, but they may have been. Um, but it was the workhorse of the early U.S. Navy and U.S. Marines defense of the Pacific. Um, it's significant enough that it needs to be kitted as a high quality kit of its own.
All right.
So since we're coming up on almost an hour, and we've said we're going to
Yep.
try and limit these things to an hour, um, what one shout out for the end of the podcast? One thing modeling related, one person, one product, one something that you think deserves a shout out.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you mentioned your new airbrush purchase earlier in the episode, because my shout out for this month is going out to Mr. John Miller of Model Paint Solutions. And this came to be by your friend Jim Bates out on the West Coast.
Oh, now
I
now we
was,
mentioned Jim, and he's going to get a big head.
okay, well, that's okay. There's a lot of room out on the West
Yeah,
Coast for
true
that.
enough.
I was having some trouble with a particular line of paint that I'll just keep under the cuff for now because I'm still playing around with it. And I guess Mr. Bates had mentioned my concerns to him, or my lack of success, and I reached. He asked to reach out to him, and I did with a pretty substantive list of outlined what I'd done as in as much detail as I could. And we had a couple of exchanges, and he was very helpful, and not to the point of trying to sell me stuff, but to get the solution I wanted out of this product.
Yeah.
And I've got some more playing around to do, and we'll talk about that in the future, I'm sure. But I'm confident I can have success with this product, and thanks to him, I think I got a pretty good shot of getting there. And his website is it's one word: Model Paint Sol. Model Paint SOL, one word, modelpaintsol.com. And he carries a lot of really great airbrushes and a lot of peripheral products that I'm sure people might not have thought about. Maybe they don't know they even need them yet, but I saw a lot of mixing and measuring stuff on there that caught my eye. But I'd like to say thanks to John for helping out a guy who didn't buy anything from him, just on a suggestion from I can't even say mutual friend, really.
Yeah.
It's a twice removed situation, but pretty generous in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, John has done presentations at the last two nationals, and I attended both of them. I attended his seminars. I can tell you from interacting with him at the nationals, he's a good guy, and like a lot of really good modelers, he's one of those people who is generous and willing to share what they know and willing to help a guy out. And I can second your referral to his website. He's got some really nice videos and really nice articles on a number of subjects. I highly recommend Model Paint Solutions and Mr. Miller.
And what about you?
Uh,
Is anything
well,
noteworthy from
Yeah,
your side tonight?
I'll tell you what, and we've talked about this a little. There's a guy on YouTube who goes by the name of Night Shift. I think his actual name is Martin Kovak. He's somewhere in Eastern Europe, and he produces some of the best modeling videos, technique videos that I frankly think are out there on the net right now. Um, his video quality and his video engineering is fantastic. One of the difficult things in doing modeling videos is the ability to show the techniques clearly, and his videos really do. Um, he does his presentations in English, even though he's somewhere in Central Europe. Uh, his presentation is funny. Um, it's not a comedy routine, but it is lighthearted.
I agree.
It's
Yes.
entertaining as heck. Each one of his videos is maybe 25, 30 minutes long, and they fly by. And every one of them I watch, I learn something new. And if you're looking for something, YouTube's a great resource for modelers, and I don't think that we utilize it enough. Of all the resources out there on YouTube, I don't think you can do any better than Night Shift's videos. So go to youtube.com and search for Night Shift, 2 words.
I can't agree more. One of my favorite spots on YouTube is Night Shift. Uncle Night Shift is really getting it done.
Yep.
He does a fantastic job.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, this is the first one out of the box. So hopefully we managed to go an hour, and
we're right there.
Yep. So let's wrap it up, and hopefully people will enjoy this and come back. And again, if you have any suggestions, it's Plastic Model Mojo, all one word, at gmail.com. And we're also going to have stuff out there on Facebook and Twitter. We'll go try and get the word out. So help us spread the word.
All right. Well, until we do the next one, as we say in the club, so many kits,
so little time.